This is the weekly roundup of the week's top stories and what's happening today. Talking of which, right-wing protesters, this is new, have burst in on a memorial being held in Brussels as crowds mourn the victims of Tuesday's attacks. Firecrackers have been set off and brawls have broken out. Riot police used water cannon to repel the troublemakers. Crowds had gathered to pay tribute to the terror victims, despite the official march against fear being cancelled by organisers at the request of the authorities over policing resources. Police say their capacity is limited while they focus on investigating Tuesday's atrocities. Here's how those tragic events unfolded on that day.
After the second explosion, so many people panicked, so many people cried.
Get over there! That's it! I'm not leaving! Get over here!
When I was outside, I just saw two people with heads like covered, really covered with blood.
We felt a small blast of air, and we heard some thudding in the distance. The metro immediately stopped. The lights turned off, the engine turned off.
You could see smoke coming out of the entrance of the metro station. There was many people who were injured pouring out onto the street.
During multiple raids afterwards, at least 9 people were arrested in connection with the attacks. Muntman, the man that Belgian prosecutors suspect of being the would-be third Brussels airport bomber. The suspect seen here on the right of that picture has been named as Faisal C. Local media are identifying him as Faisal Chafu, although there's no official confirmation still of that. We brought that to you 24 hours ago. Investigators think he could be the man pictured with the 2 other airport bombers, but whose device subsequently failed to go off. The man on the left, Najim Lashwai, is also a suspected bomb maker from last November's Paris attacks. Some Belgian media also speculate that a 5th attacker could still be at large, a man seen on surveillance cameras in the Brussels metro, carrying a large bag alongside one of the suicide bombers.
We are dealing with a very, very persistent threat. There are more so-called foreign fighters. They are not really foreign fighters. That is the term that is used. The fact is that they are almost overwhelmingly homegrown jihadists, cult-like jihadists. So of course this was going to be a potential big threat for Belgium and for neighbouring countries, and that threat is not going away.
Attacking the headquarters in Brussels, whether EU or NATO, is basically saying you have no control, even in the heart of the military and economic and political enterprise that you base your entire identity on, that you can be struck at this heart. And I think it's a very powerful symbolic blow.
We know ISIS stated that they are going to infiltrate in these migrants that are coming into Europe and also those that are going to come into the United States. So, you know, we have to stop having these excuses, and we have to stop apologizing for the political correctness that I see is just running rampant. And we do believe that this latest attack in Brussels was a result of the capture of the individual, and then it set off a chain of events. And I think that we're going to actually see more of these. In fact, I know we're going to see more of these. I've been saying this for a long time.
The man who helped the authorities to track the apartment from where the terrorists travelled to the airport and also to identify them was a taxi driver. He may have averted even greater tragedy, it's turned out now, by refusing to take all their baggage because the car was overloaded. Searching the apartment, investigators found an unexploded bomb, 15 kilos of explosives, bomb-making materials and an Islamic State flag. Other raids in the same street led to a computer being found with a statement from one of the attackers saying that he felt increasingly unsafe and feared ending up in prison. So questions are being asked over the amount of time it took to Belgian police to find and arrest suspected Paris attacker Salah Abdeslam. He was eventually caught just 300 metres from where he'd lived before the attacks. It took police, though, 4 months to locate him. In the week, RT's Sorelli visited the locations Abdeslam visited in Brussels before the Paris attacks.
Following the terrorist attacks last November in Paris, investigators were led to this building where they found the fingerprints of Salah Abdeslam, who was one of the surviving members of that attack. Now, investigators believe that most of the planning for the Paris attacks took place here in Brussels, and it led to tensions between French and Belgian investigators, with the French suggesting that their counterparts here in Brussels were lax in tracking the activities of militants who had returned from fighting for ISIS in Syria. For 4 months, Abdeslam avoided being arrested. He was eventually caught in this building, just hundreds of meters away from another building where his fingerprints were found. Originally, there were rumors that he had fled to Syria, like hundreds of other men from this part of town.
Don't you think it's kind of bizarre that this kind of person didn't get caught for 4 months? He did not even leave the area. How can that be possible? Are the police totally useless or what? That's what creates the atmosphere of terror.
Of course, these days, with new technology, you can catch people easily. But sometimes, the person hides in the place where you least expect them to be. I'm not surprised.
The police are doing whatever they can. The authorities are not being given enough resources, and they are running low on personnel. For me, that is the principal reason why they didn't catch him sooner. In my opinion, you can't blame the police for everything that happened.
Over the past few days, some satirical online publications have been making fun of the fact that Abdeslam was hiding almost literally under the noses of the authorities. The Nordpress magazine made a headline saying that Abdeslam has checked in via the Facebook safety check to let everyone know that he's okay. Perhaps it's part of the Belgian sense of humour to be able to laugh at themselves at a time of such tragedy. Issa Ali, RT, in Brussels.
Hope you stay with me this Sunday afternoon. A lot more to come. When we come back, RT's investigation into airline crew fatigue has been such a story this week for us. Draws dozens of pilots to admit to dangerous levels of exhaustion while flying. It's coming up.